Hey guys, Nicole here with Obscure Reptiles and Caging, and today we're going to show you a bearded dragon setup and things to think about if you're trying to get a cage ready for your baby or adult bearded dragon. So let's get started. Hey guys, so today we're going to show you some of our bearded dragon enclosures. So these ones are a little bit different than example ones that you would use. These are actually ones that I built, that we build with Obscure Reptiles and Caging. If you're local to Buffalo, you want a PVC enclosure. We don't build in winter, so we have stopped as of right now. We'll be picking back up in spring. But we have 4 bearded dragon setups right now. One of them is not even in use. It's just an extra spare backup cage. And we have one sub-adult male. His name's Cheeto. That's a little really bright red guy. He's my little guy. You guys actually are the ones who named him. I wanted to name him Apollo or Zeus or Hades. You guys very much outvoted me. So his name is Cheeto. We have Homegirl, which is our rescue. She is missing part of her tail, and she is her own little thing. And then we have Little Red. We did have multiple bearded dragons that we were breeding, but we did slim down a little bit. Those bearded dragons are with some of our friends. They're doing fantastic, but we slimmed down greatly. We had, I think, 5 or 7, but now at some point, not this season or next season, probably the season after that, we are going to try breeding Cheeto with Little Red. Both of them very nice red examples. He's a quarter red monster, something like that. But anyway, he's just fire red, amazing blue bars. Red always throws amazing babies. We're actually in the process of doing an update video for some of the red babies that we produced this season. Super excited to show you guys. But this is our bearded dragon setups. I'm also going to take a moment to show you guys a bunch of different bearded dragon setups right now that people have done with enclosures that they've purchased from me. They have set them up fantastically. We just started including, for $5, we will include a basking shelf, which you'll see in a lot of these. They look like a little white table. That gets them higher to the UVB and the heat itself. So when it comes to PVC enclosures compared to glass, they hold in the heat incredibly well. So you need a lot smaller of a bulb if you can get your dragon close enough to that bulb. And the reason why these ones that I'm showing you we have personally are 3 by 2 by 2. The reason why you want them too tall, not because they're going to use that space, but because it allows heat to escape. These animals need about a 75 to 80 degree cool side of the enclosure, but they need, as babies, 105 to 110 degree hot spot, and then when they're a little bit older, they need closer to a 95 degree hot spot. So we found that you can use the same enclosure, same basic setup, but if you use a slate rock, then that slate rock will heat up a lot more, and you can use a little bit higher of a bulb. When that animal gets older, like Homegirl and Little Red, we take that slate rock away, or we leave it and we put in a little bit lower wattage of a bulb. Bearded dragons 100% need UVB. So we've just recently switched everyone over to Arcadia UVB bulbs. They are the bearded dragon specific, I believe they're called desert ones. Don't quote me on that, but they're the ones recommended for bearded dragons. These ones are absolutely fantastic. They not only make the animals look way better when it comes to the UVB, it's way brighter than the old ones that we used to have. And you want to make sure that your animals are getting the best care. So you'll always see our cages slightly evolving throughout the days, throughout the months and years of having them. Just because we had UVB tubes in there doesn't mean that was the best on the market. When new things come up or we find new research on new different things, we're always going to put new things into the enclosures. So another thing you can see, the reason that our cages are different than what most cages are they're missing the top sections. We actually have our dragons upstairs in our house. And in summer, even with central air conditioning, it gets a lot warmer up there than it does anywhere else in the house. So I actually left those open because we had a lot of vent holes, but because PVC, again, is just so good at holding in heat that it just was making it very difficult. So for example, we've got, those are Ackie monitors over there. Those guys are in 5 by 2 by 2 enclosures. And even with them, they have to have a ton of ventilation holes, but their hot spots are 120 degrees. Super easy to achieve with a big bulb, again with some nice slate rocks, but to get the cool side cool enough, you got to make sure that animals have enough space to get away from that heat. They have enough upward space. When we move for our final time here in the next few years, hopefully we can get a larger house, larger reptile room. These guys are going to get an even larger cage with even more upward space to really help control the temperature and basking and cool side of their enclosures. With the bearded dragons, you can see there are a ton of different ways to set up bearded dragon cages. What we like to do is we like to use the little tables and put one under the UVB and one under the basking. The thing that you have to be aware of is because you can get them closer to the UVB, there is a certain distance that you're supposed to. So on any UVB you choose, highly recommend you use a tube UVB because it puts out a lot more for your bearded dragon. You want a happy, healthy bearded dragon. On the back, it actually will tell you how close you should actually put your animal to the UVB to get the proper amount of UVB. So if you've only got a cage that, let's say, is 8 inches tall and you put a big tube UVB, that's probably in the danger level. It's too much. You do not want your animal getting that much UVB. And if you got a 2 foot tall, normally it's around 12 to 18 inches that the UVB is perfect for your dragon. So one option is to somehow hang your UVB lower so your animal can still be on the bottom of the enclosure, or 2, elevate that animal so it has different options. I prefer the elevation method because 1, you could just simply put a shelf in there, like an actual shelf throughout the entire enclosure. But when you do that, I find it's a little bit harder to clean, which is why we actually started doing the little, I call them the little tables, little basking shelves. You could fully take them out to clean the enclosure, and it gives the animal a little bit of a shaded area below. It gives them a lot more levels in the enclosure so they can get to a lot different, more hot spots, cool spots, and all of these are under, they're 10 inches or shorter. That way, most of them are about 5 to 6 inches, but they're always under 10 inches because if the dragon jumps off, falls off, it doesn't hurt itself. Plus, it's also really cute watching them to be able to climb a little bit. To get our animals up to the basking, to the UVB, we put branches. We go to local beaches and we get driftwood. There's ways to fully make driftwood you get out of the lake totally safe. I'm going to do a video with that probably in spring as it's a little bit cold to do that now. But there's 2 different methods of doing it. I'll show you guys both one day. But you can use that stuff to be able to go and put it into your enclosure. So that's what we did. You can also get cork bark, which some of them have, but we find the bugs really hide in there. Makes it harder for them to actually be able to hunt them. And we do keep a water dish. These are like the stone looking ones. They're actually just made out of plastic, but I like them because the dragons can fully submerge pretty much their torso in the water if they choose. They can drink again if they choose, but normally they're mostly going to drink from you spraying them or soaking them. But I always like to give them that option, plus it helps you maintain some humidity inside of that enclosure. And for food dishes, we like to use clear glass ones. Plastic tends to 1, it gets dirty easier, and 2, when they go to climb in it, it just flips all the bugs all over the place. But we got these little dollar store glass dishes, that way they can see the movement from the bugs. Even if they're on the same level, they can see the movement, they know that we're feeding them, and they're a lot easier to clean and sanitize. You can use things like ceramic, but they tend to not know, if they're not paying attention, that you just filled that food dish, and they can only really see it if they're higher up. So we like to again use the glass, plus they're big and heavy at the bottom, so you can't really flip them as easily. We can easily put things like calcium powder, stuff like that, right on top of it, and they can still see the movement of the bugs, so it helps get them to eat a little bit better. Something we added that you don't really need is my wife added some vines in there. Those are just cheap things like fake plants, kind of like this, that we got offline. We ended up cleaning and sanitizing them, putting them in there just to give it a little bit better of an aesthetic. We do want to put more stuff into the cages, but right now they're all starting to go into brumation, which is why they're not moving very much, so we're not trying to mess with the cages anymore. And also, as Cheeto gets larger, if he becomes a very large male, then we're going to be upgrading him to a 4x2x2. A 3x2x2 is minimum for a female, and by us including the different shelves, they also come out of their cage all of the time. It gives them enough space to move around. They have a little bit of stuff to climb on. They're still getting exercise. But if Cheeto ends up being a very large male, we're going to be upgrading him to, again, a 4x2x2. Or we might just leave the 2 3x2x2s that are down at the bottom and cut 2 holes in the side, so that way he can use it as one large enclosure, because you want to make sure that they have enough space. The hardest thing is babies. You don't want to go too big too quick. The absolute biggest I would ever say for a baby bearded dragon would be a 3x2x2, but you really have to do it up properly. This is an absolutely perfect 3x2x2 enclosure. There are a ton of things for that baby to hide in, feel secure in, and something that I also recommend is, this is what we do, We actually have blackout curtains. We put little hooks in the side, and then at times when, you know, it's either nighttime so they're asleep, or sometimes during the day when there's a lot of motion, a lot of activity outside of their enclosures, we'll actually cover it up so that they don't get stressed, especially for the babies. We actually have our dragons on a night schedule, which means that they are awake 12 hours at night and sleep 12 hours during the day. We find it easier to maintain their temperatures. Again, because we have so many reptiles, the house can be so hot during the day, but then cold at night. This way, it's a lot better for them. And we put the blackout curtains so it's a lot darker so they can actually sleep better. Itty bitty baby is just not doing good in a huge, huge cage. Definitely recommend something smaller for them to grow into. But there is absolutely nothing wrong with getting an adult male or female a 4x2x2, or make sure you add things that they have things to climb on, or they can come out, walk around, and be active. They're not insanely active animals, but they are active enough that they need their exercise. They need to be able to have something to kind of climb on. They're very silly animals. I wouldn't give them anything super tall that they can fall off of, but if you give them something like our enclosures with those little tables, they can just jump off on their own. I've seen them just purposely jump off, especially when it's feeding time, or they'll climb down specifically. We'll actually put branches between the two of the shelves, that way they can kind of walk. They're pretty good at doing that. But that's how we set up our bearded dragon enclosures. Let me know what you guys think. We definitely want to start adding some more things in there for them, but we find it really hard to be able to clean different items. They've all had fabric beds, which they love to poop on. They've all had different types of hides that they never really used. We've tried even at the bottom of the tables, fully enclosing it, except for one side so they could have somewhere to be nice and secluded. They never would go in there either. So if there's anything that you guys do with your dragons, let me know. Put them in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We do a few videos every single week. I'll see you guys in the next video.